By now, we have all seen Dana White committing domestic violence against his wife, Anne. They have been together for nearly 30 years. The criminal act took place at Squid Row in Cabo, San Lucas, Mexico on New Year's Eve. Multiple reports have stated the White family was present at the Cabo hotspot. White has since apologized, but now a man White has made his duty to bash and chastise every chance he gets, that being Ariel Helwani of MMA fighting, has been asked by many his thoughts, and thus he shared them.
As I said, this has been a tough one for me, and I don't, even up until this very second, am not quite sure what I'm going to say, because I can't hide from the fact that my relationship with Dana White, or lack thereof, is extremely personal. And it's largely personal, I would argue, because of him. He has made it very personal. I've tried to repeatedly, take the high road and not make it personal. But I can't not talk about this. I can't not weigh in on this. Because if this was John Jones, if this was Conor McGregor, if this was Amanda Nunes, if this was Rose, if this was any fighter in MMA on the UFC roster, we would talk about it. And so my thoughts on the video and the incident and the aftermath are as follows. First of all, I can't believe that there are people online that are actually defending Dana White's actions. I can't believe that there are fans, fighters, pundits, if you want to call that, defending Dana White. And guess what? If you don't see them, you're not looking hard enough, because they're there. Defending Dana White's actions and saying that because he was slapped first, it's all good. All's fair. Equal rights.
Let's pause for a moment here and let's backtrack. So I did the video yesterday on Dana White. The comments we received on that video were and remain appalling. Flat out appalling. It is a response to the model Dana White has set with the Schmandrew Schmates of the world and their influence, more from Ariel Helwani.
Excuse me, where I come from, you get slapped by a woman 10 times, you walk away. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if that to you feels like I don't believe in equal rights, then fine. Because to me, equal rights is treating women fairly, treating women like we want to be treated. Women get paid the same, get the same opportunities. That's equal rights. You chauvinistic pigs. Striking a woman, who, by the way, is not just any random woman, because you got struck first. No, that's not how this goes. And anyone who is saying that, shame on you. It is completely, absolutely embarrassing that anyone is defending this. And you know what's even more embarrassing about it all? He's not even defending it. He's not even defending his actions. He's not even offering excuses. But you have fighters rushing to Twitter, rushing to social media to defend striking a woman, to defend striking a woman, to defend striking your spouse. What? What kind of fucking crazy world are we living in? What kind of crazy fucking sport is this? In what universe is this okay? It's not okay. And guess who believes it's not okay? The guy that you are defending.
Incredibly fair points by Ariel. And guess what? It's true. The man you are saying did nothing wrong is saying you're wrong. You all stumping for Dana, laying his hands on a woman. He's saying stop. He's saying stop defending him. He is saying he is in the wrong. Then Helwani would revisit comments from Dana White himself back in 2014 when Baltimore Ravens running back Ray Rice put his hands on Janae Palmer. Here's what he said. There's one thing that you never bounce back from, and that's putting your hands on a woman. Been that way in the UFC since we started here. You don't bounce back from putting your hands on a woman. As we went over yesterday, that is completely untrue. For the UFC, of course, that is. Because you see, when Dana White says stuff like this, it is to promote a positive brand and do good PR for the company. Of course, what he leaves out is the John Joneses of the world. He leaves out the late Anthony Rumble Johnson, Luis Pena, Thiago Silva, and of course, former NFL player turned UFC fighter Greg Hardy, who they promoted on their first ever ESPN card when Rachel Ostrovich was a victim of domestic violence. Put them on the same exact card. It was tone deaf.
I am curious how ESPN is going to cover the news of Dana White and video of him slapping his wife at New Year's festivities, apologizing, saying there's no excuse, saying that he had been drinking. If it had been Roger Goodell or an owner of an NFL team, I imagine it would be covered with a great deal of zeal, even though ESPN is a corporate partner with the NFL. In this case, Dana White is, I can say this, right?
He's the face of the sport.
But he's the most famous person in the sport, too.
Dan Le Batard, former ESPNer, posed this question. And then, of course, we had our answer. At the worldwide leader, that being ESPN, they opted to decline comment when asked about White committing domestic violence. Endeavor, the parent company of the UFC, also followed suit. ESPN, by the way, is the official broadcaster of the Ultimate Fighting Championship.
This behavior is not okay. And it doesn't matter if it was someone who is fighting for 10-10 or an executive at the very top, because I could guarantee you if it was me, I'd be done. And I can guarantee you if it was me, the things that he would be saying about me would be a hell of a lot less diplomatic than what I'm saying about him right now. I hope you recognize just how tough it is to hear someone like that speak of me like that, the way in which he does, knowing that's who he is. Y'all can keep defending him. You could keep defending the actions. You could keep defending the way that they treat fighters. You could keep doing that. And I'll still be here talking about the sport, and I love the sport, and I love the fighters. I can't believe that you are defending this. There needs to be repercussions. There needs to be accountability. I don't think there will be. Prove me wrong. Color me surprised.
Let's pause here. More from Helwani in a moment. Let me just say, from a sports media perspective, I thought Ariel Helwani handled this so well. Better than a lot of others would have in this situation. He did not go low, as Dana White has done time and time and time again. He did not stoop to that level. He was professional in his criticism, something that Dana White could probably learn from. This was great. Truly. If you are going to be put in this position to talk about the man who has tried to crush your career, I thought he did it masterfully.
Of all the things that Dana White has said about me, all the lies, all the insults, all the bullshit, all the nonsense, all the mean, vitriolic, disgusting things that he has said about me, for what? Side note, for what? For breaking some news? For getting it right? For not kissing his ass? For not cupping his balls? For what? Of all the things that he has said, there has only been one. There has only been one that has stuck with me, that hurt me right here, that made me think a certain way, that was like a spear in the heart. There has only been one that has stayed with me, that I can hear it in my brain. And that was back in 2016. That was back after the UFC 199 incident. That was a couple days after the unbanning.
Let's provide some context here. In 2016, we learned a lot about Dana White. We learned that he prefers lapdogs and not watchdogs in media. We learned that he prefers sports journalists, reporters, on-air personalities, writers, what have you, to kiss his ass at every single turn. And the reason we know this is because Ariel Helwani is in the business of breaking news. He is the Adrian Wojnarowski. He is the Ian Rappaport of MMA. Alas, Helwani broke the story of Brock Lesnar's return and Conor McGregor's rematch with Nate Diaz. He and two other members of the media with MMA fighting were kicked out of UFC 199 as they were covering the event. I was brought to the back by UFC public relations and told by Dana White that I had to leave the arena, Helwani told Yahoo Sports, saying Dana was ticked, along with Lesnar, that it leaked. He repeatedly said, "Go cover Bellator. We don't want you here." I said, "What did I do wrong?" He said, "You're too negative," which is a pure Trumpian tactic. Then again, two peas, they say. Helwani also went on the record saying he heard Lorenzo Fertitta, co-owner of the UFC, basically booted him and got him cut off the Fox roster when Helwani was an employee. Afterwards, Helwani teared up, speaking of the incident on his show. White mocked him for it, saying, "Your kids are going to see that," White would blurt out, adding that Helwani should be embarrassed by tearing up on air.
I could not believe that he would go to that level, that he would talk about my family. That has stuck with me since 2016. That has always remained with me. That's the kind of person that he is. You don't talk about people's families. You don't talk about people's kids. You don't talk about any of that. That has always stuck with me. What are your kids going to say about that? And I'll be honest with you, when he said it, I thought to myself, what are my kids going to say about this? And I know what my kids are going to say. I know what they're going to say. I know forever that they're going to say that, you know, I stood up for myself and I told the truth and all that stuff. I have nothing to be ashamed of. I have nothing to hide. But I have never forgotten it. And so on this day, I'll raise the same freaking question that he raised about me back in 2016. What are your kids going to say about you? What are your kids going to say about your legacy, about the way you treat fighters, about the way you treat people, about your business practices? What are your kids going to say about that video? What are your kids going to say about the kind of person that you are? What are your kids going to say about you? Ask yourself that fucking question. What are your kids going to say about you?